What's up, y'all? It's Ty back here with another video. And in this video today, guys, we're going to be going over and ranking each and every one of the number 3 overall picks in each and every NBA draft. You guys can see some of your GOATs, MJ, right here, as well as some guys that had really good careers, such as like a Kevin McHale, Grant Hill, James Harden, and then even Jaylen Brown down here, Jason Tatum, Luka Doncic, all 3 guys in which are going to be playing in your NBA Finals. So I'm super excited to get after it today, ranking them from S tier being, great players in the league, from F tier being bona fide scrubs. First up here, we got Richard Washington, averaged 10-4 in his career. Had about a 6-7 year career. I'll go D tier. Could get moved up, could get moved down, but overall, not a great career for Richard Washington. From Richard Washington not having a great career, we have Marquez Johnson, who had a fantastic career. Sat out 2 seasons with an injured neck. It just pains me. All of these great players that had to sit out with injuries. I'm going to put him at A tier, but trust me, he's a borderline S tier. Had such a good career. In the 1978 draft, the Indiana Pacers selected Rick Roby, who played in the league a few years. Averaged a career 8-4. Just never really put it together. I'm going to put him in D tier. Probably going to have a worse guy here eventually, but bad career from Rick Roby. Now, a lot of people think of Bill Cartwright in his older years for the Chicago Bulls, but in his younger years for the New York Knicks, he was a dominant big man. I'm going to go B tier. Had an All-Star appearance. And Kevin McHale, the Hall of Famer, once finished 4th in All-Star voting, the 6-7 time All-Star. I'm going to put him at S tier. I don't think there's any doubt about it. A great, dominant defensive player as well. S tier for Kevin McHale. The 17-year career of Buck Williams is one that I think is undervalued and that people sleep on, man. Was so good throughout his early stages in his career. A dominant big man. I'm going to go S tier. For the number 3 pick, it doesn't get much better than Buck Williams. Maybe I'm too high on him, but man, look him up, man. Trust me, Buck Williams got it done. But then it's tough because next up we've got Dominique Wilkins, who has to go in S tier. I don't know, maybe eventually I'm going to have to move some players down. You guys know the highlight film himself, easy addition in S tier. And it's hard to follow it up for Rodney McRae, who actually had a decent NBA career. Really good on that defensive end of the court. Averaged double figures multiple times throughout his career. I'm going to go B tier. Rodney McRae, really solid career. And then you get to go, I feel like I need a new tier. Michael Jordan. I'm going to move some guys down. I'm going to. These guys are going to go to F tier. I'm going to move some guys down because I realize we've got some really good hoopers. Doesn't feel right moving some of these guys down, but I have to. I have to do it because the GOAT needs a tier to himself. I feel like I'm an absolute casual. Before recording this video, I'd never heard of Benoit Benjamin, but he had a 15-year career and was really solid, especially in those early parts of it. I'm going C tier. A really solid career for Benoit Benjamin. Never was a superstar, but played a really solid role. Chris Washburn, sad after 1 season and did end up getting kicked out of the league, dealing with substance abuse issues. Just kind of sad, never really got his career going. F tier is where I have to rank him. Dennis Hobson had a really rough career. I mean, I'm going to go D tier. I guess I'll move Richard Washington and Rick Roby up as well. It doesn't feel right not putting Dennis Hobson at D tier. So all these guys had some decent parts of their career. I guess I'll put them in D tier. When you talk about guys that did have solid careers, you gotta mention Sean Elliott. I'm gonna go B tier. A couple All-Star appearances in there. B tier for Sean Elliott. Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf, an absolute sharpshooter in his time. Gonna go C tier. Did have some solid years, but just never had a great overall NBA career, but was an absolute sharpshooter for his time. I feel like Billy Owens was okay in his career, but just never was great. I kind of want to go D tier. I feel like even a guy like Bill Cartwright, Benoit Benjamin, had a better career than Billy Owens. I'm going D tier. Christian Laettner had a very solid career, but I'm going to end up putting him at C tier. I think a guy like Sean Elliott just did a little bit more. Anthony Penny Hardaway, we're going A tier. Perfect addition here. Finished third in MVP voting in one of his early years and had some great years in Orlando. Grant Hill was an absolute problem in his early career in Detroit. A-tier, multi-time All-Star, inducted into the Basketball Hall of Fame. Peak Jerry Stackhouse averaged 30 points in an NBA season. I don't think his career numbers are good enough to put him at A tier, but in his prime was so good. I feel like I gotta move Buck Williams down, although I really don't want to because I love Buck Williams. Shareef Abdur-Rahim, another really solid player in the NBA. I'm gonna go B tier again. I feel like A tier is the elite of the elite. But you could argue as far as a full career, Shareef had a better career than maybe even like a Penny Hardaway from top to bottom, not necessarily at his peak. Chauncey Billups had a little bit of a different career path than a lot of other guys. A lot of guys peaked by the age of 26, 27, especially back then. Chauncey really didn't hit his peak until 29 or 30. A tier for what he did for both Detroit and Denver just throughout his career. Was a really solid point guard. It pains me to do this. One of the only guys I'll ever be able to talk about that's from Iowa. Raef LaFrentz, D tier. Never really got it figured out in the league, but played some decent years, D tier. Baron Davis, another guy, I'm going to put him at B tier, but had some really good years. There was a run of about 10 years from age of 21 to 31, which Baron Davis was a really good point guard in the league. Darius Miles, I've got as a what-if type of player. Battled some knee issues in his what would have been prime. Sad to see, got to end up in D tier. This man, Pau Gasol, goes A tier for me. What Pau Gasol did for as long as he did it, how many NBA championships he won, how many All-Star appearances he had, he's got to go in A tier. Did it for a long time. Averaged a career, 17-9. A tier for Pau Gasol, I think, is the right place. I think kind of slept on in his NBA career. Mike Dunleavy never really was a star in the league, but was a good role player for quite some time. I'm going to go C tier, a great shooter in our league. Is there ever a doubt where Carmelo Anthony belongs? A tier. Melo, in the way he was in his prime, able to get a bucket, is up there with the best bucket getters of all time. Ben Gordon was one of the reasons back once upon a time I did like the Chicago Bulls. His career didn't last super long, but in his prime was a certified bucket getter. I gotta go C tier for Ben Gordon though. Deron Williams is an interesting one because although his career didn't last super long, in his prime, I'd argue A tier. It's just a tough one because his prime didn't last super. I'm gonna go A tier though. I think I've got to. I think that's where he belongs because he was a top 10 player in the league in his prime. I'll be the one to say it. If Adam Morrison could have stayed healthy, he could have been a problem. He was 4th in Rookie of the Year voting. Wasn't bad his rookie season. I'm going F tier though. Just never after that ever was given an opportunity, never played a significant role. He's F tier. The Iron Man himself, Al Horford, I'm going to put him at B tier. But man, he's just as good now, nearly as he was in his prime. I mean, this consistency of Al Horford is something that needs to be studied. B tier for Al Horford. To be honest, the first 5 years of OJ Mayo's career was really solid. He got buckets pretty efficiently. Gotta go D tier though. Throughout his career, just never really panned out. Was out of the league by the age of 27. James Harden, Fear the Beard. Look, I've got to go A tier. There's really no question. Upper A tier too. I mean, if you want to talk about guys that are the best scorers of all time, Harden, Melo, both of them are in contention in that conversation. What Prime Harden did changed the game of basketball. Derek Favors didn't have a super long career, but did play some impactful basketball in his prime. I'll go C tier. He was okay. I'm sure a lot of you guys like me think of Enes Kanter Freedom being an absolute scrub, but in his prime, he was a really good 6-man. I'm gonna go C tier because he had some really solid years. Bradley Beal can get you a bucket. In his prime, average upwards of 30 points. It just is a question of how much has he impacted winning. For now, I'm going to leave him at B tier, but again, if he wins a championship or two and stays healthy and can find a way to impact winning, he has a chance to go to A tier. Otto Porter Jr. has had a decent enough NBA career for me to put him at C tier. Hasn't ever really been a star, but he's been a really solid role player on some really good teams. Joel MVP Embiid, A tier. I hope Joel Embiid can stay healthy, because if he can, he's going to go down maybe being one of the best big men of all time if he can get a couple of championships. It's easy to forget how good of a rookie season Jahlil Okafor had, but after that, never really was great. kind of put him in that Adam Morrison trend. I'll put him at D tier, but decent rookie seasons. Never figured it out after that. Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. These ones are tough for me to do because I think both of these guys, when they finish their career, are going to be A tier. So that's where I'm going to put both of them. But I think Jaylen Brown is ahead of Bradley Beal for what he's accomplished. I think Jason Tatum is already. And they're both younger. I think they're both going to finish at A tier, especially if they can get a championship this season. Luka Doncic, probably the closest thing I have on this list to putting it S tier. Genuinely. Like, I think he's going to finish his career being the best player we have at A tier. I genuinely do. But I'll put him at A tier. Luka Doncic, so good, and he's only getting better. RJ Barrett, I'll put him at C tier. Has had a decent career so far. LaMelo Ball, where do I think he's gonna finish up? Probably C tier. Has battled so many injuries, hasn't really impacted winning too much. If he figures it out, could be B tier, maybe even A tier, but for now, C tier is the right spot. Evan Mobley, he's gonna have to take a leap to be in B tier, so for now, I'm gonna put him at C tier. He's so young. I'm putting him at B tier. He's so young. I'm going to put LaMelo at B tier too. I think I've got to. They both have been okay in their young careers. They both got to take big steps though. Jabari Smith Jr., he gets hated on way too much. Scooter Henderson, I'll put you at C tier. Didn't really show much of anything in your rookie season. That's going to wrap it up for our video today, guys. Let me know your thoughts on my rankings of our number 3 draft picks. Drop a like on it, subscribe if you're doing it. As always, man, I love you guys. Have a blessed day.